right, I am going to call this meeting to order, and fair warning, I will probably move at a faster pace than Dom. So, so go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is 7:11 p.m. on January 13th, 2021, which is kind of crazy to even think about. With us tonight, we do have Mark Berry, Director of Parks and Rec, Elizabeth Hogan, Fran Whitney, our secretary, and a resident, a citizen with petition, Tom Olson, joining us. We do not have any minutes to approve, so we'll just save that. It'll be adjourned, I guess, until the next meeting in February. We can review the November minutes then and approve them at that time. So moving right into citizens' petitions and comments, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Olson.
Thank you very much. Just for full disclosure here, I'm a member of the Conservation Commission, and I know we've been working with through Mark Berry in regard to giving you some information and trying to get some coordination going on between the two commissions. In particular, over the past 2 years, in 2019 and 2020, the Conservation Commission kind of restructured itself, got fully manned up, and we then issued a 100-page open space conservation plan. We sent copies over to you guys earlier. I know that Mark had taken a look at it and provided some comments to us, and we got that out, and we've briefed that to the town councils, the RTM, and et cetera. And in that, we have about 43 recommendations that we're taking on as action items over the next couple of years. So for 2021, we're trying to establish our stewardship plans, taking a look at what is our responsibilities from the Conservation Commission, and taking a look at the inventory. We're required by the ABC document for the town to maintain an inventory of open space areas. And then also, we're down trying to expand that to take a look from the Land Trust Alliance perspective in regard to what should be the stewardship of those lands that become, essentially our designated open spaces. And one of the things that we're getting a little confused with right now as we kind of sort through all this stuff is where the responsibilities come. Obviously, there's some parcels in the town that are belong to public works, such as that, and that are considered open space, such as the sewer pump stations and the like. You have some things that are the schools, which come under the representation of the Board of Education, and then a majority of the items that are in Parks and Rec's responsibilities for. And then we also have a couple of special cases, such as the COP and Pequot Woods, that have special oversight boards on them. And then you end up with this, what's left over as far as in who provides the stewardship and control from a use perspective. We recognize that the Parks and Recs, you guys established the rules for operations within and also for stewardship of the Parks and Recs. And we're starting to see some cross-pollination as far as on which parcels are really being overseen and stewarded by the Parks and Recs Commission or the Parks and Recs Department, and what's left over. So from a Conservation Commission, we're concerned about what's left over and what should we be doing with that, and to such a degree that we've actually developed a draft open space ordinance similar to what they have in some of the other towns in Connecticut in regard to provide what can be done in an open space as far as and who should be working with that. And so we drafted that up this past summer, and we're still kind of struggling with that on a way forward. And I just wanted to kind of open some lines of communications with your commission and to be able to offer my services to help coordination of this, and to see if there's anything that that you guys had concerns about from an open space consideration as you go forward and start taking a look at updates to your master plans in regard to what you guys are going to be doing on the different parcels that you have responsibility for. And so that's the concerns that I had. And I wanted to bring that forward to your commission and offer that coordination services if necessary. That's all I had.
Well, thank you, Mr. Olson, for reaching out and joining us today to share that. I did read the plan. I will admit to not reading it very thoroughly because it was quite long.
Yeah.
I do remember the action items. I can't recall anything specific, but I remember being very pleased with them. So, which is why you didn't hear anything from me. I generally only comment if it's not good.
Yeah, I understand. That was fine. I mean, we took all comments and.
Yeah. That being said, what is the best way, do you feel, for us to move forward in partnership? So something that's just coming to my mind is, should periodically one of us join your meeting or vice versa, just to kind of hear it out? Did you want to see Mark's plan for stewardship of the particular properties that are under theirs to see if they align with your stewardship plans? I feel like Mark and his team do a really great job when it comes to stewardship and taking care of our green spaces.
Well, one of the things that we've already provided Mark the latest update this past Friday, we forwarded over to Mark an updated inventory and also for comments from him. And so I just encourage, Mark says he's willing to go do that. I'm sure he's already got some folks started on that, but I just wanted to kind of use this as an opportunity. And that's really, once we hear back from Mark in regard to what properties are being maintained and stewarded by Parks and Recs, that will help us get a better understanding of what's left over. And that's the biggest thing right now. And just your encouragement and of Mark's tasking on that, and be aware that we're also giving him tasks outside of just what you guys do too.
Yeah, the list that they sent, well, it's a spreadsheet, and there's 150 parcels that, and there's some that I've actually never ever heard of. So there are some, and some of them are really small, a third of an acre, that is classified as open space. And I'll be perfectly upfront. There are, like I said, there's some parcels that I couldn't tell you where they are. So I know that we're not actively managing those in any way, shape, or form. So I think this is a great exercise in identifying, what's falling through the cracks, and, coming up with a plan to, at least make sure that we are watching those parcels and maybe not necessarily managing them on an active level, but at least keeping an eye on them and making sure that there's no encroachment from neighbors and whatnot. So I think this will be a good exercise for the department and for the town.
So Mark, will you share those with us? So when you do confirm that, which parcels are going to fall under the Parks and Rec stewardship?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and just just kind of explain a little bit beyond that right now. As far as one of the things that we are developing is a stewardship workbook, as far as on what we would be expecting for stewardship of the remaining parcels. And one of the things that we kind of try to categorize things. There's a state statute that requires if a parcel is greater than 3 acres that it has a public hearing and all this type of stuff before it gets dispositioned. So that's our initial cutoff. We're not going to worry about anything less than 3 acres as far as from an open space and conservation issue. We feel that those are, can be handled through the public works and whoever else wants to deal with those. So if it's greater than 3 acres, we'll take a look at it. The first thing we're doing is making sure that taking a search of the deeds and everything to make sure that it's properly protected as open space and identified that way. Right now, we're only seeing about 60% of the stuff that we can readily verify through the town's GIS website and the access through the deeds and everything. We got about a dozen properties that we need to get into the town hall to, but because of COVID, we haven't been able to do that. And then there's a number of parcels that we're still going to have to go do a little bit more research on. But then for the parcels that are basically greater than 10 acres are the ones we're really focusing in on right now, as far as from a conservation stewardship perspective, as far as identification of a stewardship plan for those. And that's really what's going to really take some coordination between our two commissions in regard to what we're doing. We're not ready to go there yet. We want to get our stuff together in regard to the inventory and where we are. But later this year, we'll probably be coming to you with a little bit better suggestions in where we want to be going with on how to put that stewardship action plan together. Because we recognize that a lot of there's a lot of similarities between the stewardship of open space and what you guys are doing for park facilities without recreation amenities on those spaces. So they're very similar. That's where, to some degree, we're, like when we see a place that just has, like, probably a good one is Mortimer Wright. It has some trails on it, and you guys listed as you got your nice big green sign out there and all that kind of stuff. But what's the real difference between that and then you go over to the Joel property over by the Kalinowski School? It's 60 acres, no trails, and nobody's watching it. And so those are the kind of things that we're kind of concerned about in regard to taking a look at stewardship and what should be done in these other areas.
Okay, so would it be beneficial for us when you are ready to have a joint meeting?
I would say it's probably going to be a couple of months before we get at that point, but we envision that we've discussed having a joint meeting but Larry Dunn is our chairman, and he'll be the one that'll be formally contacting you to do that. But I'm just kind of the liaison because I'm the guy that's responsible for the inventory and for writing the original open space plan. So
Okay.
We'll be contacting you probably like in the March or April timeframe.
All right, well, I know that I look forward to hearing from you then.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Olson?
Nope.
Mr. Olson, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
Did we, is there anything else you wanted to let us know?
No, I'm fine with everything else. I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
I'll get out of your hair. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Okay.
Okay, have a
Bye.
great one.
Good night, Tom.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, welcome, Don. I'm just going to keep on moving. We've already started this, so we're going to move right into town council referrals. I believe we have two. We have the letter from Mr. Richards and the request from the town manager to review the town-owned property, 2 parcels, one at 1208 Pequannock Road and 0 Flanders Road, and they have asked that we consider whether or not the property is suitable for recreation or open space purposes.
Well, the property at 1208, it's adjacent to that.
The massage pool.
Correct, and basically underwater. So I'm not sure what we would do with that in terms of environmental type concerns.
And that's also, oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say
it's
by Groton Utilities, which not really an
Correct.
ideal spot.
right. And it's also the former site of a gas station, and it is contaminated.
Oh,
So
that's good to know.
there could be no excavation. I personally don't see any recreational value. I mean, I can't see putting a park bench there and a tree so you can sit and watch 10,000 cars go by a day.
Right.
To me,
I
it's,
did have one thought about that property,
yeah,
and it goes back to the discussion we had with the town council about the Pratt Building and the idea of a theater and all that, and the fact that the community center does have space for an auditorium theater. With that in mind, if that were to be developed, and updated for use by the community, would we not need auxiliary parking for events? And in that case, would that parcel be appropriate for that use?
it's kind of a long way from the
Yeah.
community center. And
It is.
yeah, if we were going to look at secondary parking, I think I'd look at either to the library or to the senior center as
Mhm.
alternative locations for, if we were holding an extra large event there at the community center and needed additional parking, I think that would be a better site. The reason the town is considering disposing of that parcel is the massage school. There is an interested buyer in that property. It's also this, I don't know if I should be saying all this. Someone's interested in that property. They're interested in actually leasing, I believe, the parcel next to it, and would propose to change the entrance to the current parking lot and utilize that additional space to kind of move the parking lot a little bit further down into that parcel at 1208 Paquonic Road. So
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so I don't see any recreational value in that particular parcel.
That was the only thing I could think of, yeah.
Yep.
So Mark, will you report that back to John Burt, or is that something we need to do? It'll be, or will it be reflected in the minutes?
It would be reflected in the minutes, but I would let him know by email tomorrow that the commission was not in favor of retaining that property for any type of recreational use.
We
Okay.
have to do any kind of official move on that,
That's
or
what I
is
was
it
gonna
just
ask.
discussion?
Yeah, you know, it probably wouldn't hurt to have somebody make a motion that, and if, yeah, I guess we could do two separate motions once we have the discussion about the other parcel.
So do I have any motions regarding 1208 Paquonic Road?
I move that we recommend back to the town that that parcel of 1208 Paquonic Road is not suitable for parks and recreation use.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so moved. Okay, 0 Flanders Road.
Sorry, I just want to
Um,
make sure I get this right for the notes. Elizabeth, you made the motion, Dom, you seconded it, and it's the
Correct.
motion to give it back to the town.
Well, to retain, so that there is no value in the property as a Parks and Rec.
Okay,
So they're looking to repurpose it. It is the town's.
Right.
well, I just don't know how to word it, so
Yeah,
just that
Yeah.
it's not going to be used for park and rec?
No,
So
no
it's not
recreative
suitable
use.
for, yeah, it's not
Right.
suitable for Parks and Rec purposes.
Right.
So I think that's the question he asked. That's the only brief, is the property suitable for recreation or open space purposes? And the answer is no, we do not consider it suitable for recreation or open space purposes. All right, with regard to 0 Flanders Road, which it looks like it abuts with the Gosa Sheep Farm. Is that correct, Mark?
You know what? I'm actually,
It was a little confusing when I Googled it.
yeah,
Today.
I'm not sure that that large parcel next to it is part of the sheep farm.
No, I went to the Gosha site and Sheep Farm, the original Sheep Farm, and then Sheep Farm South are still a bit of a distance from that parcel on Flanders Road.
Okay.
However, I know at one time Gosa was interested in acquiring some acreage adjacent to that parcel from my brother. But for a variety of reasons, he was not able to cut that out from his mortgage, but that's neither here nor there. So I would recommend, from what I know of the neighborhood as well, that we recommend to the town that it be offered for open space.
So Elizabeth, is that south, is that property south, southwest of 95?
I'm trying to get my
Yeah,
directions right,
it
Tom.
looks-
Yes,
And just
Yeah.
north of the transfer station?
yes,
Okay.
Yeah, the transfer station is just across 95. This actually used to be a piece of the transfer station. I think it's known as the transfer
95,
station
I mean.
parcel.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. But it
There's
was never
another-
used, it was
How
never
many
used as a
acres?
dump site or anything like that.
No, it's woods. The
Yes.
other history for that parcel for Flanders Road is about, I'll say about 10 years ago, there's a proposal from the town to connect Hazelnut Hill Road with Flanders Road to set up a commercial, like for light manufacturing facility in that area. So I think and it was defeated by a very robust response from the neighborhood. So I think interest in open space will be strong since more homes have been built in that area in the intervening years.
So Mark, they did provide a lot of information on the like details on the property. I mean, they outlined the, where the outer limits of the property extend to, but it doesn't outline, how many details, what, Elizabeth has given us the information that it's wooded, but
Yeah.
I mean, I can sort of see that on the satellite imagery from Google Maps, but
Yeah. I know, and I expressed those sentiments to the planning department. I said, you send us a map and there's no parcel information at all. That wasn't particularly helpful, and they heard me, but I didn't get any additional information. I mean, I can tell you that it's 17.15 acres. There are no utilities, so there's no water and no sewer. So if it was to be used, it would probably, there would just be like a gravel parking lot and trails in that 17 acres.
So do we need to make a decision on this tonight? Because I personally would like to see it, to have more of an idea. And between yesterday and today, I did not have time.
agreed.
Okay. Yeah, I am not sure what the timeline is for us to make a decision, but if you don't feel that you have enough information and would like to, on your own, or we could schedule something as a group, go out there and take a look at it, then that will be the message that I convey back to the planning department.
Am I correct that we just found out about this yesterday? I didn't see it in any earlier messages.
Yeah, no, there was a few things that came in at the last minute.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
this
having
was one
one
of
day
them.
The
is not
memo is dated January 8th, and I will say that it's also addressed to the Conservation Commission and the EDC, and I know that the EDC has already had their January meeting, so they won't be reviewing this until February.
Oh, okay. Well, then.
yeah, My husband is on the EDC, so
Oh, okay.
so he will also have to review it. So I mean, so personally, I feel like I would rather defer the decision until we are able to physically assess the property and look at it. That GIS sheet with the little outline really did nothing for me.
Yep. Okay. So do we want to try to schedule something as a group, or this is a take your wife or husband out for a hike kind of
Don't get very far. There are a lot of brambles.
Not knowing the property itself, for me, it would be nice if somebody from the town walked us through it.
Okay. All right. I will, I'll see if I can arrange that.
Okay.
All right.
So can I have a motion to defer this decision then until we've reviewed the property in person?
I'd make a motion to defer the decision on this property on 0 Flanders Road until the commission has a better understanding of the property itself.
And I second the motion.
All right, so moved. So we will defer the decision on this property until we are able to go visit it as a group. All right, our next town council referral is from Dr. Jeffrey A. Richards, who is proposing that hold on, this is a very interesting letter. So he has 2 questions at the end of his letter. How can the town develop a proposal to use the entire property as a town park with citizen input with the same care and detail as the Restler plan? And can the town then propose a townwide referendum to determine the will of all the townspeople between 2 strikingly different alternatives for our future? So I do have a few comments regarding this letter. I feel that the council and the town planning committee or the town planning department have done a thorough study, and I've done my own market research to conclude that what our market needs are regarding homes are high-end rental units. So the current demand for that market is high-end rental units and not single-family homes. Similarly, the Ressler plan also makes allowances. It very intentionally doesn't use the full 85 acres of the Mystic Oral School property because it leaves 35 to 40 acres untouched because of the natural resources that are there. The next point, my final point, and then I'll open it up to everybody else, is that you know, with regard to a park, I feel that we are already at capacity for our Parks and Rec department with the limited resources that we already have to care for the parks that we currently have on our rosters. Mark and his team do a fantastic job making the most of the resources that they do have, but they're relatively under-resourced, and to make additional plans for something that would require a significant amount of capital funding and care for the Parks and Rec department at this time doesn't seem feasible to me. Anybody else have anything for that?
Oh, it's kind of chewing on it.
Oh.
I guess one of my thoughts is that this is a development that could really help support the town, because it's going to put a lot of property back onto the tax rolls, which we obviously need in order to maintain everything else that we have. So,
So I've been listening to a lot of the meetings about the development, and there are some pretty big concerns, and the concerns are very reasonable, given the way the land is currently and the roads, the infrastructure and all that stuff. So I can see some of the reasons why they're looking to make it more open spacey, and not, because one of the ways, from what I understand of it, that they're keeping from taking more area is by building up. So a lot of the buildings are going to be very high, which is not kind of in line with the way a lot of the surrounding area is. And people are worried about the roads going in and out because there's not a lot of access, and traffic on Allen Street, which already gets backed up as it is at rush hour. And there are all kinds of concerns about it. So I understand where this is coming from, but I'm not sure if this is the direction we want to go. But yeah, I'm not all in on the current plan myself. So
forgive my ignorance, and I'm sorry I was late, but I was having difficulty getting in. Mark, did you get my email that I sent to you?
No, I was checking my phone
Anyway.
just at the start of the meeting.
Anyway, who is Olson? I don't want to go back, but who is Tom Olson?
He's on the Conservation Commission.
Conservation Commission as in the state of Connecticut?
No, the town of Groton.
The town of Groton. Okay, thank you. And regarding this, now I want to just come back to this. This is regarding the Pratt property. Is that what this is about?
so the oral school, the overall project.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
so
whole
there's
parcel.
been a lot of meetings regarding it and public meetings,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
And
Yes,
has
correct.
Dr. Richards spoken at these meetings?
a lot of people spoke. I don't remember
I
a single person's name.
Did Dr. Richards speak?
I don't memorize the names of the people who speak, so
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, they do write their names down when they do speak, right, Mark?
Yes, their information is captured in one way or another.
So
if
my
the public
question
speaks.
is if there's been a lot of public meetings, a lot, and now in the last minute or so, he writes a letter I'm not sure I understand. And I think the tone of his letter is a bit negative, just to say the least, almost to the point of sarcastic. So I was offended by the tone of the letter, for starters. That's how I feel about it. And you know, I don't even appreciate his input. He's coming in so late. I'd like to say, well, I like to appreciate his input, but I don't, you know. So that's my feeling on it regarding what he has to say. I also feel that it would be a boost for the town. I don't think it's the biggest bondoogle that the town is going to come to do, but I do think that the Pratt property and the project is a good thing for the town. So that's all I have to say on it.
Yeah, I think that I felt the same way as you, Dom. I just was trying to approach it from a factual point. I agree. I felt that the overall tone of this letter was condescending, sarcastic, and a little bit 11th hour. I mean, there have been several public meetings where there were plenty of opportunity to provide input. I believe that the town, as well as the Parks and Rec Department, did a lot of surveying of residents, whether or not everybody chose to participate. They were given the opportunity to voice their opinions and assert their needs at that time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not inclined to make any motion to change the direction that the town is headed regarding this project.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, though, we have to respond to this citizen.
Actually, I'm looking and I don't even see our commission on that list of names. I see Mark Berry on there. I see the Economic and Development Commission. I see the Planning and Zoning Commission. Others, and I see Mark Berry, and all I see is Parks and Rec. Now, does that mean Park and Rec Commission? I'm assuming that's what you thought, Mark.
Well, the email that came from the town clerk and went to John Reiner, the planning director, which I forwarded to you.
Yeah.
The portion from the town clerk listed the Economic Development, Planning, and Parks and Recreation Commissions.
Okay.
So yes, it was in the email. They asked that this letter be forwarded to those three groups.
Okay. Now I was just looking at where it says others.
Yeah, in the
Okay.
actual letter, I don't think it does call out the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay.
To go back to one of Angela's points is that with the needs assessment, which was extensive, that the Parks and Rec Department conducted last year, the need for open space, I don't remember being one of the top needs of the responders. I don't have the summary in front of me. Mark, do you remember?
Yeah, I don't think that more open space. I think what people were asking for was improvements to the existing parks, because there are some parks that are in pretty tough shape due to disinvestment over the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, well, I think we see that with the field report, but that's another topic.
Mhm.
My feeling is we could respond to this gentleman by saying that in fact, his fellow citizens have responded to a statistically valid assessment of their needs and desires regarding parks and recreation facilities. And that at this point, we do not have reason to believe that making a change in plans is consistent with the preferences that we have learned about.
Elizabeth, I think that's a very diplomatic and thoughtful response.
I agree, and I'm not sure I'm as diplomatic as that, especially in his PS where he says, "I am scolding you."
Oh, My favorite was the fairy dust, actually.
But
Man, he would hate to work with me, I will just say, seeing that he is a former Pfizer colleague. Fairy dust fuels a lot of what I do, so he would hate working with me.
No, I think his proposal was kind of an extreme opposite of what is currently in the plan. But I also think that, and I don't know what our role is as far as what's happening with the development, but I do think that someone should be addressing the concerns that people are bringing up. And I know some people have been complaining at the more recent meetings that that's not happening. So I do think that's something that maybe we might want to either look into, or I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what our involvement is at this point, but.
So
Yeah,
Fran,
to this-
I think we can make, I think we should address the Parks and Rec role in it with regard to the Pratt Building, using Elizabeth's response about the survey and the general results of what the needs assessment revealed and what people are looking for in Groton. With regard to the council and the EDC and planning and zoning not getting back to him, I don't know that we're responsible for kind of finding those answers. I mean, we could just, as a commission, maybe send an email to the town council and just say, here, well, maybe we copy the councils and the other commissions copied on this letter with our response. That way they can see what we've responded, and perhaps it will encourage them also to respond in kind.
that's a good idea.
I like
So
that.
who is constructing this letter? Is that something that I'm supposed to do? Because I am not a stenographer. I did not get down everything Elizabeth said.
If you would like, I'd be happy to draft something and then circulate it. I don't know if that's the way to do it, but
Yeah, I think that that would work.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's
I will
acceptable.
do that then.
So I'm
Okay.
gonna write that in the minutes. Elizabeth is drafting a
Yes,
response.
I raised my hand. Yes, I did.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay, anything else on town council referrals?
That doesn't happen
Mark,
very
I'm sorry, I
often.
think I interrupted you.
Oh, that's all right. I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Sorry. All right, then we'll move on to correspondence communications. Have any commissioners had any communications or correspondence with citizens?
About the Pratt property.
About the Pratt
Oh,
property?
yeah.
Okay.
We have friends who live in Boulder Court. And like I said, I don't know what our role is, if we have any, beyond what we've already, the needs assessment and all that stuff. So I guess I'm asking, do we have any input, or where is our role at this point?
Yeah, I think Angela addressed that a little bit earlier in that I think the commission's focus is on what's happening at the Pratt Building. And outside of that, I don't know that the commission really has any role in
Right.
the whole planning and zoning and, you know, the economic development side of the rest of the project. I think we have enough challenges with what's taking place inside the Pratt Building to keep us focused on that. And at this point.
Fran, were your friends' concerns specifically related to the recreation building or the property overall?
It sounds like it's more related to the property overall. The Pratt Building is a small piece of what's
Yeah.
going on there, as you all know. So I think it started out as the Pratt, and then it's expanded a lot.
Okay.
So Fran, have they attempted to address other parts of the government and find out answers? So
Some are getting
perhaps,
no response.
in the minutes, we can write that we've become aware of several taxpayers who have requested information and have not received any answers or something along those lines.
I would
How do-
specify from the council, like just in case, you know, I'm assuming, and I'm just making an assumption, Fran, that that's who they addressed their original concerns to.
I think it was to various parties. Some of it was to the developers who are always saying, reach out, ask us questions and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
okay.
others were to people within the town.
Yeah, we could be specific on that point. I know that I'm one of those people that if I saw something like, oh my gosh, I didn't do something, somebody emailed me, and I was supposed to do something and it was me, but it wasn't, it was somebody else. So just so for clarity, and hopefully a call to action, being specific on that, I think would be helpful. Anyone else have any other correspondence?
Actually, I had one person who was wondering, Mark, about the resurfacing of the basketball courts at the GCC.
Yeah, we will probably be going out to bid later on this winter for that work to be completed sometime this spring.
Okay. was just
Sorry, I
curious.
had some noise here. Where was that?
That was the
At the
basketball
Groton.
courts at the community center.
Going to bid in the spring?
Yes, for resurfacing, restriping.
Okay, and the question that came up to me, and this was kind of casual, but people are wondering what the deal is with parks and recreation programs for the spring. Are they going to be virtual continuing because of the high numbers, or are people going to try to have some in person?
So our next, I guess it would be winter one. Programs are all going to be virtual, and those start in the next week or so. At this point, I am expecting that programs through the spring will remain virtual. If we do, a couple of months from now, if things have changed considerably, when we put the information out about the spring programs, we would let people know ahead of time before they sign up that they're starting virtually, but if the opportunity presents itself where we would be in person, we would move to in person. And we're also looking at offering a hybrid option. So if those folks that didn't feel comfortable with the in-person class, we would still have the virtual class option. So we're not going to be making a change midstream without letting people know before they sign up.
I'm not sure this is oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, my expectation is that through the spring, we will not be offering in-person classes.
It's probably
I'm not sure this
why.
is the time, Angela, but a friend of mine played golf at Shenny recently, very recently. And he noted to me that they're taking the flags out. So I'm not sure with the spike in COVID, why that is happening.
Taking the flags out of
I
where,
don't
Don?
know
they're
what that
they're
means,
playing-
Dom, because I don't golf.
So
Being the flags are in the holes that people have to pull up?
correct.
Oh, okay.
So they had it prior, as you know, Mark, there was a person who donated those
Right.
Things that would take the ball out of the cup.
Yeah, you could use
Now-
the putter to lift the
Correct.
lever that pulled the
Correct.
cup.
Now people are taking the flag out and reaching into the cup. And I was just wondering the rationale now that we're we're spiking in COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't get that.
I
Perhaps
would
we
have
could
to
ask.
check with
Yeah.
the core staff. I know that over time, the mechanism that's attached to the poles, a lot of them got bent and broken just from
Yeah.
the volume of use. And
Yeah.
so they were no longer working as they should. And so I think a lot of them just, they were disposed of, and we went back to the old system, but I will check.
But prior to that, you had turned the cups upside down
Right,
so that the ball didn't go all the way in.
right, yep,
So, and people didn't have to reach in
right,
and get it, and they kept the flag in. So,
yep. Okay, I'll check on that.
thank you.
Okay, any other correspondence communications? No, hearing none, we'll move on to reports. Starting with the Director of Parks and Recreation.
Okay, so I do have a couple of updates to what I reported in, what was reported in the December report. The town is working with DACO Incorporated, which is a local consulting firm. We've submitted a coastal area management plan to the Noack Zoning Commission to add sand to Esker Point Beach. The meeting was tabled because they had not reached a decision at the end of the meeting. They wanted some more information. That follow-up meeting is next Tuesday night. So I will be attending that. Some of the residents that live on Noble Ave, which is right adjacent to Esker Point Beach, have some strong concerns. The town years and years ago that's not a natural beach, and the town used to put sand on it, and over the course of time, due to wave action and wind action, that sand migrated over to in front of their properties. And so the water used to come up much closer to their property. They now have a larger beach, which these homeowners, I guess, don't want a larger beach. And but we have the proposal that we've put forward, I think is a little more strategic than just dumping sand. We started 2 years ago extending the beach grass that exists down there. It runs now parallel to the volleyball courts. We added 2,600 plants over the last 2 years. We've put in snow fence, and part of our proposal is to put sand just right now in the area of the volleyball court. We feel that the beach grass that we've planted will act as a trap to prevent the sand from going into the water and then migrating over to their property. And we're also proposing to survey the property, the beach each year, to record if there's any changes in the level of sand at the beach. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get a permit to put in 500 cubic yards sometime this winter. The plan was to take it from a project of sand dredging at Mumford Cove. They have offered that sand to us because if they give it away, there's no cost to it. If they sell it, the state charges them a fee for every cubic yard that they sell. And so we're trying to be good neighbors. So we're hopeful that we can get 500 cubic yards of sand onto for now, the volleyball courts. And the reason that we're looking to put sand on the beach is the sand is very gravelly, if you've ever been down to Esker Point Beach, and it's not particularly comfortable. So we're trying to address we're trying to balance the interests of both the community and the neighbors. So I'll let you know at the next meeting how that goes. There
Mark,
was a, yep,
Can I ask a quick question about
Sure.
that? Sorry, my clock's going off. I was wondering, has there been consultation about sand grain size and things like that from some kind of environmental
That's the
engineering
question I
firm or
was
something?
gonna ask
Because
the
I know
same thing.
sand grain size has a lot to do with whether or not it's going to get transported, regardless of whether or not there's grass there to try to hold it.
yes, the consultants that we're working with, there's a team of two. One is an engineer, the other is an oceanographer, and he knows all about sand. In fact, we met there today, and he had 3 bags of sand and was talking about the voids between the grain sizes and all of that. So yes, that is all being taken into account.
Thank you.
Yep. And the other information that I wanted to provide a little bit more on was I mentioned that I've been meeting with the town risk risk manager about the Noe Town dock. And just to give you a little history, I think it was a year ago, October, there was a storm. A large sailboat broke away from the mooring, crashed into the Noe Town dock that we had just fixed and did some damage. And the town's insurance company contacted their insurance company. Their insurance company in their insurance agreement has an act of God clause. So they said that they were not going to pay for any of the damages to the dock. The estimate that we have is for $18,000. So our insurance company wrote a check for $18,000, kept $10,000 of it because that's the town's deductible. So right now we have $8,000 for a $18,000 project. We are going out to bid. I think the town is intending on suing the boat owner, or at least contacting him, letting him know that it's the town's desire that he pay for the damages. And I'm not sure that we're going to get any money from him. And so we may have to go to the council to ask for money to come from fund balance because this was an unbudgeted expense. But that, I just wanted to kind of update folks on those two things. I don't know if there's any questions about other information that was in the December report.
Mark, the only question I have is it possible to get a copy of the concept plan for the Pratt Building that was presented to the town council?
Yes.
I think it might
Any
help us a
questions
little
for
more.
Mark regarding the directors? Go ahead, Elizabeth. Any questions for Mark about the director's report?
Nope, thank you.
All right, moving on to the golf course.
So December was the first month that in this fiscal year that we did not generate more revenue than we had done in the previous year, partly because we had 9 inches of snow and was on the ground for about a week or so. And we also had a couple of rain dates or rain events that stopped play. However, for the year, our total revenue, as you can see at the bottom of the report, we are still up over $111,000 from the previous year. And last year, we had a phenomenal year. So we are still on track to close out, the next 6 months strongly. I did get an update from the Golf Pro today that I think last January we did 30,000 throughout the whole month. And as of today, we were already at 16,000. So it looks like we're tracking ahead. And I think he said that tomorrow was completely sold out. Friday was sold out,
Mm,
and Sunday was sold out. And we, in the past, we have, our winter rates have been lower than what they are now, and we're getting absolutely no pushback from players on the current fees. So it's a pretty competitive market out there. Fortunately, right now, there's a lot of other local golf courses that are closed for the winter. So we're kind of the only game in town. So play remains very strong.
good.
So Mark,
Yes.
at the golf course, during the summer, say the height of the golf season, if you will,
Mhm.
how many people work at the golf course? Because I don't see that anywhere reflected in the reports that you give us. And my question would be, if there's X amount in the summer, how many people are laid off during the course of the winter?
So this time of year, we typically have 6 to 8 rangers. Now, the rangers are the gentlemen that are taking care of watching the pace of play on the course,
Yeah,
responding to, if a cart breaks down, or, if there's a group of gentlemen that are playing slow or whatever, they'll go out and get them going. And they're also making sure that the carts are, well, this year they were making sure that the carts were sanitized before they went out again, and making sure they were all filled with gas. So we scale back, and that's rangers typically during the summer will work every single day. This time of year, we've only got rangers on, very limited. There's
Okay.
probably just one ranger on. The pro shop staff, that remains the same. The hours are cut back a little bit, but we're still getting, phone calls. Somebody has to answer the phone to make those reservations, because they're not all coming in online. There's a greater and greater percentage of reservations that are coming online, but someone still has to physically be there to answer the phone. And when guys come in to pay, somebody has to be at the pro shop to, take the payment. And there's also summer help that we have during the seasonal help that we have during the summer. And, we usually like to have 4 summer employees just to, help with all the additional mowing and work that takes place. So as far as full-time employees, all the full-time employees are still are on the payroll for year round.
So then it's the summer grounds crew that you really cut back on?
It's the
Because there's not
seasonals.
as much mowing and all of that.
Right. Well, it's the seasonals. I mean, this,
Yeah.
today they had the boom truck out, and they were doing tree work. And so, there is a fair amount of work that takes place during the winter in preparation for the spring. So that, they pull all the boundary markers, all of the pins that go at the tee boxes. There's a lot of
Yeah.
work that takes place annually in preparation, and the mechanic is going through all the pieces of equipment to get everything all set so for the following season. So it's
Great.
mostly seasonal workers and the some of the rangers that are not employed during the winter.
So are all people that work there, are they town employees?
Yes.
Okay, including the pro and the people that work in the pro shop?
Yes, they're all employees. Yep. And all of the fees generated from memberships and tee times pay for their salaries and benefits and all of that. So that does not come at any cost to the town.
No, I was just curious if they got like
Yeah.
a town retirement and all that kind of stuff.
They do, and all of that is paid for. Each year, the golf course makes a contribution towards retirement.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
And so do we need to set the fees for this year? Am I remembering that correctly, or is that some?
Well, no, you are correct. So what's happened in the past is the Golf Advisory Board, they in the December started a discussion about the fees. They don't meet in January, they meet again in February. The first one, I think it's February 1st this year. At that meeting, they are going to come up with a formal proposal for the fees for 2021.
Oh, they're
In the-
probably very glad I missed that meeting then. huh?
Well, so they'll be discussing that February 1st. I will be sharing that information with the commission ahead of time in preparation for the commission meeting. This year, we're going to have a joint meeting on, I think it's February 11th is our next meeting, or the 10th, I can't remember. It's actually going to be a joint meeting with the GAB and the council, because what's happened in the last couple of years is the GAB has made a recommendation, the commission has made an ultimate recommendation, and then I have to go to the council, because they're the ones that finally approve it, and say, well, the GAB and the council and the commission don't agree. And I just felt like it would be better if we had a joint meeting so that we could, while we were all there in the same, looking at the same screen, have a discussion about what the rates and hopefully both groups, we could come up with an agreement that worked for everybody.
That's fair. I think that's a wise.
Well, we'll
wise
see.
move.
We'll see how wise it is. Yeah. Yeah. So I did share with everybody, in addition to the rule, in addition to the rates, the rules are also, any changes to the rules are also ironed out at that meeting. And then both the rates and the rules and regulations are presented to the council for their approval. And that generally takes place in the March meeting, or the later meeting in February, depending on how their meeting schedule works.
Elizabeth, did you have a question? I think you're trying to ask something.
It was just, I thought that for the process of the joint meeting you used last year when we were really restructuring the rates. Remember? It was at the
No, I don't think
last meeting.
Yeah, we had two separate meetings last time. I think what we
Well,
did,
the golf pro was there.
Yes,
I
I was-
remember the
right.
conversation with him.
right, we did invite the superintendent and the golf pro to the commission, to the February commission meeting. Yes.
Okay. It seemed to have worked out.
Well, we did get our rates set. I'm put in the awkward situation of having
So-
kind of two different opinions, and I'm trying to avoid that if possible.
Sure.
All right. Any more questions, comments, concerns for the golf course? Nope. Has the Trails Coordinating Task Force met, Mark?
They did. We met in
Okay.
December, and the Conservation Commission committee has put forth an initiative to come up with a trail guide of all of the trails in Groton that are managed both under the town by Groton Open Space and Avalonia. They're taking this project on, and the town, I have provided them with information about the trails that the town manages. Avalonia is providing them information with the trails that they manage, and same with Groton Open Space. And they're going to try to pull together a comprehensive trail guide. Their interest is in having it printed, and I've suggested that they also, that information be made available on the town's website and also Avalonia's website and Groton Open Space, so that people can kind of go to one of those places and see all of the various trail information. And what they'd like to do is provide a little bit of history. So when people are walking on a trail, you or in an area, you kind of understand some of the history of that area. So they are working on that, and we are working with them to do that. And I don't have any sense of a timeline on when that will all take place, but perhaps by next fall, it will all be together.
And
I think
this
that's
is
wonderful.
a crazy idea, because it costs money. But has the commission considered at all doing a digital version or creating an app?
You know, they just reached out to me and said, hey, Mark, we'd like to do this. Would you help support us? And I said, absolutely. And so I've shared them information that I have on, you know, the BB Pond area. You know, it used to be an ice pond, and there used to be an ice house there and things like that. And so I've shared that information with them. I do not know if they've talked at all about having some type of an app. I think that would be a great idea. With the new town's website, it's supposed to be mobile friendly. I actually haven't tried using it on my phone, but there is you know, currently there is information about the town trails. There's an interactive map on the town's website that they should be able to use on their phones or tablets if they were hiking with something like that. But I think at some point creating a way for people to be able to look at all of these different trails in one location, both digitally and by print, would make a lot of sense.
I mean, they do have the All Trails app. That's already an existing app. I don't know if there's a way that we could update trails specific to our location through that app. I haven't checked out the interactive trail map on the new website yet, but I will tell you that the old website was not
Right.
very friendly at all.
No.
And I mean, most people that are hiking aren't going to print something out to bring with them.
Right.
I barely ever remember to even bring a bottle of water. So I'm certainly not going to go onto the computer, print out some information. So having an app, you know, and I love the idea of having some historical context about the property. I think that that will add so much value to the experience. But I think that having an app will create a better user experience and hopefully drive a bit more traffic, right? Because if it's easier to access the information, or maybe somebody uses that app or finds the app and will then explore additional trails they may not have heard of before.
Yeah. Well, at the next Trails Coordinating Task Force, there's a member of the Conservation Commission that attends that meeting, and he is going to provide us an update with where they are with the design, and I will share that suggestion with him.
Yeah. Maybe we could create a contest, some type of contest or scavenger hunt, but like using Grasso Tech. I don't know if we could engage the students, because I think some of their IT students are learning app design. I remember so I was previously on the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce executive board. And while there, I served on the workforce development program, and we did an iteration of our program at Grasso Tech. And one of the students asked some really great questions, and come to find out he'd actually already developed an app and was looking for an angel investor.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
And
so they have the skills, and maybe we could have them, you know, create something like that for us at no or minimal cost. Maybe we could attach it to some type of scholarship using the Groton, the foundation, if that is something that maybe we could consider.
Wow, you got your programmer's hat on tonight, don't you? Wow.
Nothing succeeds like success.
The biotech program is always looking for outdoor things to do too, so they could coordinate efforts with the IT kids in looking at the sites and helping
Oh.
develop what is going to go into the app and what places might be good for pointing out or including.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
I'm just particularly passionate about that. I think that the trails that we have here in the area are fantastic. I actually just shared an article. Somebody posted in the Groton Community Forum an article from Business Facilities. It's a periodical about business facilities. But I shared it with our recruiting team on site because it had a really great write-up about Groton, and it talked a lot about our coastal access, our open space, and the plethora of trails that were available to people. And I will tell you that that's one
Oh,
of the
nice.
things that I love about Groton. I feel like we should be highlighting that. Like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, guest appearance. You're so lucky. My kitty never cooperates with me like that.
All right, you settle in. I just got a link today to a video that Cindy Olson from the Senior Center made
Yes.
of a hike. I think it was in the sheep farm, wasn't it? It was very interesting and very well done.
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was Dennis and Pequot over in that area. Yes. Yeah.
We've been going to Sheep Farm, I'd say at least every other weekend. It's a great hike. It's interesting enough to not be boring, but doable for, I think, a wide range of people. And it's got a lot of nice sights. People hide rocks there sometimes,
really?
the Mystic
Oh,
Rocks. So that
yeah.
makes it fun. I agree with Angela. We have some great parks, and anything that can draw attention to that, I think is a great idea. I totally agree.
And we've seen a huge influx in people using the trails since the pandemic hit. I mean,
Oh,
it's just,
sure.
it's just been incredible. So, and hopefully, because this pandemic has gone on so long and people have been out using the trail, it's now become part of their routine, so that, when things get back to the old normal, that, going out on a family hike will continue to be something that people do, because they've been doing it for the last 14 months or so, when this thing is finally over.
Good.
All right. Anything else for the Trails Coordinating Task Force?
No, that was it.
Athletic fields. I did see an email from Jerry, but I did not read it. I will be honest.
No, that's okay. So last night, the Athletic Fields Task Force presented to the town council the results of their findings. The council reaction was mixed. Some folks are focused solely on the mill rate, and that's their sole focus. Some of the other counselors, I would describe them as a little more forward thinking, recognizing the value and the contributions that additional fields to meet the needs of the community would provide to the overall community, both from a health and wellness perspective and also an economic development. The task force last night did a terrific job of making comparisons between what exists in Groton and what exists in Stonington, in Ledyard, in New London, in Waterford, and the difference in the amount of facilities and the quality of the facilities is striking. It really showed that disinvestment in athletic facilities and fields over the last 20 years has put us way behind everybody else. And so the council has asked for the task force to continue, and I believe they will. And we do have money in the CIP for a further study. All of this work was kind of, we think 3 fields would fit here. We think a field would fit here, a field would fit here. There's money in the CIP, and we're hoping that it does not get cut from the budget this year, that will allow us to do further studies and come up with a dollar figure. And then from that point, we can go and determine what's going to be the best method moving forward to pay for this. So that's kind of a real quick summary of what took place last night.
So does the athletics field commission have any recommended steps for next actions?
Yes. So one of there is the Groton Conservation, it's not the Conservation Commission. There's a conservation group that has been very vocal about the dangers of synthetic turf fields. And, part of the presentation last night was, if we have, X number of synthetic turf fields, that will meet our need. If the decision is made to not go with synthetic turf fields, we're going to need to build additional fields, because synthetic fields, you can get one third more play on that. And in addition to not only the construction costs, there's also the ongoing maintenance costs of natural. I can tell you, our guys spend a ton of time and a lot of money on the fields at Pequannock Plains. And if we are going to maintain fields at that level, and I think they need to be, otherwise they end up looking at the fields like at Colchester, which is weeds and dirt. It's going to require more staff. We simply do not have the staff to take on all of these additional fields if that comes to be. So, that was one of the things that they're going to start working on, is gathering information about the pluses and minuses of synthetic fields, and also working to get more, not that they haven't had a lot of people involved, but try to work on getting more public support behind this initiative. So that's just a couple of things that they're going to be working on. And then if we get the money for the CIP to do the further studies, they would be involved with that part of it also.
Okay.
Mark, one of the things that surprised me about that report was the condition of Fitch High School facilities. That's not part of the school budget? Is that Parks and Recreation is responsible for the school playing fields?
No, that falls under the Board of Ed.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, we do some work on the fields. They pay us to mow and fertilize and do some of the work on the fields. But any type of construction of the fields would be involved. That would be a Board of Ed. Being the Board of Ed budget.
I found it shocking, the condition, but.
Yeah, the pictures it was striking how much difference there was between the inequity of the facilities is just amazing. The bathroom in the field house next to the football field, it's for men only. Women have to go back up to the school to use it. And it's just, the bleachers are not ADA accessible. It's just, it was really striking. So,
It was.
like I said, some of the councils still have their head down, and all they're doing is looking at the mill rate, and others spoke up and saw the need for this and the value and the benefit that it would provide to the community. So.
The other thing is the artificial turf. I understand that there's been a lot of study done on the environmental impact, and I understand the economic advantages to it. But I did a quick PubMed, National Library of Medicine search, because I remember that there are more injuries associated with artificial turf, particularly in football. And it's something I hope there'd be a way of getting that back to the task force to be sure that they look at that, because we're talking about a lot of these being on the school playgrounds, playing fields, where you have damage that could affect someone for their entire life.
Right, yeah.
I can, if you'd like, I can just send you the one article I did pull up and.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
That was interesting. That's an interesting point of consideration.
Mm.
All right, any more on athletic fields? All right, how are we looking with agency accreditation, Mark?
We are still grinding through. I would say we're 85% there and are still working towards getting that completed. And once that is done, we'll be submitting our application. We're actually going to, we have a mentor that is working with us, and we're going to start feeding him some of the procedures and policies and evidence of compliance that we've put together. The department that our mentor is coming from, a department that's agency accredited. He's also been on the visiting team to various sites, so he is well versed in what will meet the standards and what won't. And so we're going to start sending that information to him as kind of a preliminary review before we send the entire packet to the NRPA. And I do want to report that last year I was on a visiting team to St. Petersburg. I didn't go to St. Petersburg, it was virtual. And this year I'm going to be on a team reviewing the Wichita, Kansas Department of Parks and Recreation as an inspector. So, and that provides me with a great opportunity to access to documents and resources from other departments, and I gain a great deal of information. So it's, I'm looking forward to doing that sometime probably in March or April, I guess.
Very nice. What can we do as a commission, Mark, to help expedite or facilitate the accreditation process?
Well, I think you guys have, been great assets when I've come to you with drafts, and we're not done yet. We'll be bringing some more to you for your review, and your input has been very valuable. And I think at this point, that's probably all that you can do. Moving forward, at some point, I don't know exactly when it will be, but there'll be a visiting team probably coming to Groton. They'll be here for about a week, and I would expect that would probably be a busy week for you folks in meeting with the visiting team, and they would be sitting down and asking you a whole bunch of questions. And yeah, so.
Is there anything that we need to do individually as commissioners to, when you talk about the visiting team coming to talk to us individually, are there any certifications, qualifications, or courses that we should complete to better serve the
that's a great question. I'm not aware of anything, but that certainly could be something that I could suggest to, because the organization that oversees the accreditation process, every couple of years, they review all of the standards, and generally they come up with a few more as things change. Like, 10 years ago, social media wasn't what it is today. So now departments have to have a social media policy. Whereas 10 years ago, they probably didn't, because social media didn't play such a big part in departments. So I think that's a great suggestion. I'm not aware that there is any course for the commissioners to have to go, or certification or anything like that, but that I think that would be a great suggestion. And perhaps the next time the organization looks at reviewing accreditation is that they make some kind of suggestion that perhaps a training be put together and that the commission members have gone through that as part of the overall accreditation process for the agency. Yeah, that's a terrific suggestion.
Is there a booklet for the accreditation, Mark?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's this 2.5
Right,
inch thick.
Some
I
light
know,
reading.
we did it in, when I was a principal in the elementary school. We had to do it every few years for our pre-K and kindergarten programs. That being said, perhaps when you go through it again, get each one of the commissioners one of those booklets, and there's your training, to tell you the truth, because then you'll see what it is that the national organization is looking for.
Yeah, I'm afraid if I made each one, if I gave each one of those, each one of the commissioners a book, you'd probably all resign right on the spot. I will see if there's something a little bit less scary than that big book that I can share with everybody. Yeah.
Cliff Notes version?
Yeah.
Yes, the Cliff Notes. Yes, the Accreditation for Dummies version.
There you go.
Perfect. All right. Any more questions, comments, concerns on agency accreditation? No. All right. Back to the Pratt Building.
The Pratt Building. So last Tuesday night, we had the Green Play and Prairie, who are the consultants that we've been working with on the recreational needs assessment, the conceptual plans for the Pratt Building. They presented their findings to date to the council. And just as a refresher for you all, the survey that we did was a statistically valid survey. There was 4,300 randomly sampled participants selected. We received 400 back, which made it a 95% accurate survey. There was also an open online survey, which 300 people participated in. So they conducted the survey. The survey results were presented to the council. The conceptual plans were presented to the council. And in the data that came back in the survey showed that the theater was not something that the community felt was of great value to them. In fact, I think it was like 4% of the respondents identified that as having any value to them or their family. The council, and so the conceptual plans were based on the results from the community needs survey. The council was, for lack of a better word, shocked that we would even be considering not keeping the theater. And so, the statements were made that the word auditorium was in the survey and not theater, and that was misleading to people. And the fact that we only had 700 surveys, that out of 40,000 people just did not give an accurate picture. And it was pretty clear that the council wants the theater to remain. There's also a gentleman in town, and there was public to be heard, and there was 3 or 4 organizations that said that it was just crazy that the theater was not going to stay. So we met with the consultants the day after. They're putting together a proposal that is going to look at redesigning the entrance of the building, addressing the loss of space, because the conceptual proposals that were presented, the theater was going to be converted into 2 stories. In other words, it was going to be kind of cut in half. The top half of the theater there's a difference in elevation between the road and the building. The building sits down low. It's actually 14 feet lower than the road that passes by it. By using this, what would become the second story of the theater, you created a perfect entrance into the Pratt Building. And we were also preparing to use that, the bottom floor for flex space, so open space that we could have various exercise classes or whatnot in. So with the council urging that we are keeping the theater, that changes the whole redesign of the front of the building. It also causes us to lose a considerable amount of programming space. So they're coming up with the cost to redesign, reprogram, look at the feasibility, and on Saturday at 9 o'clock, there's 3 council members, 3 or 4 at the most, going to be going to the Pratt Building to look at the theater. I am going on behalf of the department, and Jerry Locken is going, and I would like, I'm hoping that 2 commission members would be willing to go and kind of speak on behalf of the recreation department needs for the building, and the fact that the community needs assessment clearly indicated that there was not a whole lot of interest in an auditorium or a theater in the building, just so that we can try to, as best we can, educate the council on, our perspective of the use of the Pratt Building. So some of you may think that a theater is a wonderful idea. Some of the council members said, oh, it will be, booked all the time. It's going to be a revenue generator for us. In talking with the consultants and my experience in working with the Groton Regional Theater, who has been putting on their shows at the senior center for a number of years, that this is not going to be a revenue generator. It is going to be a large chunk of the building, I think over 5,000 square feet, that is going to be underutilized, because, for example, the Groton Regional Theater will occupy the stage for a couple of months while they're putting on a production. So if the Groton Regional Theater is putting on a spring production, the choral group and this group and that group isn't going to be able to use that space because they have their props all set up. And I'm just not sure that the theater community recognizes that they're not all going to be able to use the space as much as they think they can. And so, like I said, I'm hoping that I can only have 2 council members show, because if it's more than 3, that's more than a quorum, and then it has to become an official commission meeting. So I'm not sure where everybody stands on the concept of retaining the theater. If you feel strongly that that is the direction we should go in, then I would ask that you not attend the meeting. If you think that the community needs assessment and the wishes of the community are should be followed, then if you were able to come to the meeting, the walkthrough of the Pratt Building, I would greatly appreciate that.
What was the
Mark, could I
cost
ask
of
you-
the
Yep.
assessment?
What's that?
What was the cost of the assessment?
The entire cost, so this would include the engineering study, the needs assessment, the feasibility study, which that's the part that we're working on now. We're coming up with a program, a schedule of all the different programs that will be run in that building, and also the related expenses, what we anticipate for full-time staff, for part-time staff, for equipment needs. The department is working on that now. That is going to that's going to go back to the consultants. They're going to review it and tweak it based on their experience with, programming out recreational spaces. And the other part of that was also the consultant, the architect was presented 3 conceptual concepts and is also doing pricing for one of the conceptual concepts. So all of that came to $144,000.
Okay,
And
so we've already spent $144,000 essentially on a market research study to determine what the residents of the town of Groton feel will best serve them. Councillor Obrey did contact me and she takes great umbrage with the use of the word auditorium in the survey. I tend to disagree. I feel like theater, to me, if you use the word theater, I automatically think of a movie theater. So I would have also said, no, we don't need a theater in the recreation building. So I am not inclined to agree that we should take back more than a year's worth of planning about the Pratt Building based on the market research that's been conducted in lieu of a small minority of both council members and citizens. I understand they may be passionate about theater. However, there are other options. The Groton Community Center does have a theater
Right.
there. They have the auditorium. The Senior Center has a theater. The Guard Art Center is just across the river. They have plenty of options. And I feel like there are no, my question was, have you even reached out to any local performing arts groups? Has there been a request for this? Is there a demand? And those questions couldn't be answered. So I am uninclined to feel that we should change the overall design for what it's worth.
So Mark, if and when the Pratt Building opens, are we going to still be running the Groton Community Center?
Yes.
Okay, so then how does the theater at the Groton Community Center compare to the one at the Pratt Building?
There's no balcony at the Groton Community Center. There's a balcony, I think, of 85 seats at the Pratt Building. The chairs in the Pratt Building are, foamed, cushioned. The chairs in the community center are wooden. Stage size, there's more seating capacity at the Groton Community Center.
Right.
Their stage size, I believe, is a little bit smaller at the community center. One of the things that the community center offers and is not available at the Pratt Building, and this kind of separates the difference between an auditorium and a theater, is wings and storage and a green room. There are none of those things at the Pratt Building. And that usually defines the difference between a theater and an auditorium. So,
Right.
you know, there's this argument that we use the wrong word. Well, in fact, we use the correct word. And if the decision is made that that space in the Pratt Building is going to be a theater, then there's going to have to be other changes to that space in order to make that a theater. You know,
Right.
and it's, that building is kind of broken up into thirds. There's the pool, there's the gym, and there's the theater. And there is not space to build a green room next to the existing theater in the Pratt Building. Now, in the community center, there is the old media center, which backs right up to the theater space. So, you know, you knock a hole in the back of the stage, and then you've got access to storage and whatnot. So, and I reminded the council on Tuesday night that for the last 2 years, I've had money in the CIP to invest in the Groton Community Center auditorium to get it open. Of course, it's been cut from the budget. So, you know, it was a frustrating evening for me, given that it was pretty clear what the community wanted, and it didn't seem that the interests of the community were being reflected in the discussion that was taking place on Tuesday night.
Yeah. I'd be happy to go whenever you're going.
Okay.
My feeling is you don't need 2 theaters in 2 recreation buildings, not to mention the needs assessment that was done, and Angela so eloquently said. One theater that people have not mentioned tonight is at Fitch High School. That has one of the finest theaters, and that you'll
Why
find
my hands up, Dom.
that you'll find around.
Yeah.
So every place we don't need a theater everywhere, you know, and to take away from, you know, square footage that the rec department would need, that seems foolish.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
So,
one of the questions.
Go ahead, Fran.
Sorry, that was one of the questions I was going to ask, is that is there data somewhere for what activities in the Groton community have required a theater? Because I'm guessing that when that happens, or an auditorium or a large space like that, they either come to ask you about the community center, which doesn't have an auditorium, and if they're not going to pay for an auditorium there, like, there has to be some kind of balance. So if they argue that that's necessary, why are they cutting it out of the CIP for the community center? Because I didn't even know it had an auditorium, I'm going to be honest, because I've never seen it. But also, is there data on how much Fitch is used, or any of the other local auditorium type spaces in the schools? Maybe if we have data showing that that's not being utilized, that might help support the idea that there's not much need for it.
right. Yeah, I am not aware of any type of study, but I would think it would be fairly easy to collect that information.
Years ago, there was an association of community theater groups. I don't know if that still exists, but it seemed to me that they would have some insight into this, what the needs are. I don't know whether someone at Groton Rep could help you out with that. But I know that when the senior center was open, that they must have had at least 4 or 5 productions a year. And certainly the tiny stage at the senior center would be well used if those productions were moved to the community center, which that stage has got to be larger than what the senior center has.
Oh, it's much larger. Yes.
Yeah.
And they,
If it's never put to use or allowed to be fixed so it can be used, that's not really something we have on the table, right?
Right, yeah, both Groton Regional Theater and the Mystic Noank Community Band had expressed interest in seeing the auditorium at the Groton Community Center fixed so that they could get into that space. And, you know, the Noank Community Band was particularly excited because eventually Wing A of the community center is going to be open. And there are a whole series of classrooms that adjoin the theater or the auditorium. And, you know, they were excited about that. We give them practice space. There's a lot more available space at the community center to support an auditorium and some of the associated uses that go with that versus at the Pratt Building, where you've got your auditorium space, you've got very small storage, I think less than 150 square feet on either side, and that's all that you have. Whereas in the community center, you've got a whole hallway of classrooms that are right next to the auditorium that could provide space for storage of sets and things like that. So there are a lot of advantages, and so the consultants right now are working through a proposal, and they're going to give us a cost of, okay, what they're proposing to do is, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to meet with all of these theater groups, and we're going to determine all of their programming needs and figure out and ask them what they're going to be willing to pay for all of this. And you know, I think once you build up all these layers of use, they're going to recognize that there's going to be so much overlap that they're not going to be able to use that space as much as possible. And then what they want to do, they're proposing to do a side-by-side comparison, say, okay, if all of this use is going to take place, here's what it's going to cost to make the renovations in order to make that work in the Pratt Building. Here's what it would cost to make those renovations in the community center in order to make that work. And then they're going to go back, and the architect is going to say, okay, if we keep the theater, we now have to redesign the front of the building because we've got a 14-foot difference between the road and the entrance to the building, and we need to make that somehow ADA accessible. And you can't put in an 800-yard, path in order for people to get access to the building. So there's going to be a cost associated with redesigning that, and the cost to estimate what it's going to cost to build that. So we're waiting for that proposal from the consultants, and then we're going to have to go to the council to get them to see if they'll approve the additional expenditure of money for a secondary study. And we would also have to go to the RTM to get their approval. So the meeting is Saturday at 9 o'clock at the Pratt Building at the Mystic Ed Center. It will give a couple of you the opportunity that haven't been into the Pratt Building to see it, and also maybe share your thoughts with the council, share a different perspective than
This Saturday, 7 o'clock,
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock
9 o'clock, yes.
at the Pratt Building itself.
At the Pratt Building, yes. Yep,
But no more than 2 of us.
that's correct.
Okay.
Because 3 would make a quorum, and then we would have to post the meeting and take minutes and do all kinds of other stuff.
So if you can just send an email to the group if you are interested in attending, that way we can decide amongst us who will go and who will
Sure.
not.
Okay,
I will not be able to go.
Oh, you won't be able to go. Okay.
okay.
Elizabeth?
I was waiting to say that I'm a convert, because originally I was hoping that theater would be preserved because of some experience I've had with community theater. But when I saw those plans, that just blew me away. That entrance and the open space, I think, is a far better use of the facility. And, to focus more on a theater in the community center makes way more sense to me. So I would be interested in going, but I'm familiar with the building, so I'm either way on it.
So I've never been, but I feel like you have a stronger argument. The council knows me and they know that I will rock the boat and then I will try to change things. So I feel like you will be better received, especially considering that you do have a connection with theater and that you originally wanted to keep the theater. So it may be better if you attend instead of me.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay.
But if you change your mind, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
But
So
I always thought,
Angela, I could defer to you if you'd like to go. I step back if you'd like,
Well, two people can go. So, I mean, it's up to you. I will
Oh,
send an
okay.
email reminding folks
yeah,
about the
Dom, I
Saturday
think as
meeting.
chair, you should totally
Okay.
go.
Okay, I have
So
one
Dom and
question, Mark.
Elizabeth will go.
Yes,
The district and the rec program had a mutual agreement. The rec department could use the facilities at no cost. Does that also apply to the theater and auditorium at Fitch High School?
that's a great question. And I don't know that we've ever asked to use
Requested,
the
right.
auditorium. I think we've asked to use the gym. I know
Yeah.
the high school has hosted karate tournaments and whatnot in the gymnasiums.
You've used a variety of gyms throughout the district for years.
Right, right.
I
But
was
I'm
just
not
curious
sure.
if you ever,
Recitals
yeah.
there, too.
Yeah, I don't know that we've ever asked for the auditorium or
Okay.
theater.
At Fitch?
Yeah.
At
Yes.
Fitch, they used to use it for recitals for the little dance groups. I know
Oh,
that.
okay.
So my
Okay.
kids did little recitals up on the stage and those were packed. So
Was that private though, or was that private or through rec?
it was through rec.
Okay.
Joy
Good.
Fidrich.
Oh, okay. Miss Joy.
Miss
Mark,
Joy's
I have one
wonderful.
question. Excuse me.
Yes.
Have you thought about having someone from Groton rep join you on Saturday?
From Groton who?
From the Groton rep, from the community theater group, Groton Community Theater.
It's my impression that the council has had a number of correspondence with different theater groups. So I'm trying to present an alternative
To that.
reality, if you will.
My thought process was this, that if they were to see the stage and the lack of support space
You're right.
at Pratt, they might think differently about I'm thinking about someone from Groton Community Theater.
Mhm.
Looking at that versus the possibility of having that support space at the community center. In
Yeah.
other words, have them say, oh, the community center better meets our need for stage and stage support.
Right, right.
It's just,
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
all right, that's something to consider. So I just have one last point and then we can move on to unfinished business. If the council wants to get hung up on words in the survey, auditorium versus theater, naming of the Pratt Recreation Building versus the Groton Community Center. A recreation building is, I think that a theater is incongruous with the purpose of a recreation building, whereas it fits very nicely into a community center. So it's something to think about.
Yeah.
All right.
I would agree.
All right, do we have any unfinished business?
No, I don't
New
believe so.
business? So new
Yes.
business, it does say the 2021 rules, regulations, and rates for Shinnecock, but it sounded like we were going to discuss that at a joint meeting with the Golf Advisory Board.
Right. So if I can just, and I know we're running long tonight. I provided you with a history of the rates over the last, since I think 2007.
Yeah.
And I mentioned in the December meeting, the GAB had initial discussions, and at that time, they asked the Golf Pro to come back with propose or for what the rates would be if there was a 3% increase in, I think it was either a 3 and a 4% increase in memberships. If you look at the rate history, memberships have not increased, I think, in the last 3 years.
Last year they didn't increase, but the player rate increased 4%, right?
Yes,
I was just looking at it.
right, yeah. So the initial discussion centered around there would be an increase in the membership rate. I think last year there was no increase. I think the year before there was a 10% decrease. And the greens fees rates have gone up over the last few years. And if you look at the rate comparison sheet, we are
The
trending
highest.
higher than, right. So the proposal was not to increase greens fees for this year and just look at increasing membership fees. And then the other part of that is, again, the rules and regulations. If there are any, I guess what I would like to ask the commission is if you look through this and you have any questions that you would like the Golf Advisory Board to answer, if you could get those to me by January 26th, because I mentioned the GAB meeting is on the 1st. That way I could address any questions from the commission to the Golf Advisory Board, and they would have an opportunity to answer those. And then I would get those back to you prior to the commission meeting and the joint meeting on the 10th, I guess it is.
When do you need
Next
those
meeting.
comments by? The 27th?
The 26th or the 27th, yes. Because I would be sending out the agenda to them probably that Thursday or Friday, along with the questions.
Mark, I think I asked this last year, but do they have a list? I mean, I know it has the percentage increase, and it might not even be relevant considering inflation and adjusted index rates, but do you have the actual dollar amount of the fees as they have increased and decreased?
Oh, a dollar amount. Well, yeah, wouldn't the rate history?
I mean, I guess I could backwards engineer it from the current rate.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could certainly do. Yeah.
I just didn't know if you had that data already.
Yeah, it's probably in a few different places that we could pull together. So you'd like to see actually the change in the dollar rate,
Yeah.
not the percentage. Okay,
I mean, it's nice to have both numbers for
sure.
reference.
Okay, I'll work on that and get that to you. Well, to the commission.
Okay. Any other new business?
No, I was just wondering about the possibility of having a time limit on these meetings.
I would love that.
I'm not kidding. Anytime I ran a meeting in my school, it was an hour. And after an hour it was drop dead time, and that was it. And we would just table it to the next meeting. You know what I mean? So now I'm just throwing it out there for, I'm the retired one, so I don't really have any places to go to be, but it's just something to mull over, I would say.
We could establish some meeting norms of some kind that might help meetings go quicker. And part of that could be, ending on time or coming up with a plan for what happens if it's going too long. But I don't think I've seen, do we have meeting norms?
Do we have what?
Meeting norms? Like a rule
I
book?
mean, like a gatekeeper and such like that? and-
That's roles, but like the meeting norms
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be
yeah.
like, you know, showing up on time, having a
Right.
phrase, a monologue, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, not that I've seen.
Yeah, I
No,
don't
not
believe
that I've
we
seen.
do. No.
but it
All right,
might
well,
be,
maybe
Well,
we could-
it's,
That's something we could discuss over email. Maybe we could do a survey for everybody. Even consider making the meeting slightly earlier, at 6:30 versus 7. I know that I would certainly appreciate ending on time.
sounds good.
Sure,
Let's
it's-
do it on the email. That'd be good.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that would be wise, because we'll be here for another 30 minutes talking about it.
And I'm
Yeah.
gonna share my new email with Mark and hopefully you
Okay.
can share it with the commission if that's okay.
sure. Yep.
My old email's junk now.
All right, so our next meeting then is February 10th. And will that be the joint meeting with the Golf Advisory Board, Mark?
It will, yes.
So I guess we can expect that one just to be a bit longer, or are we going to make it earlier to accommodate that?
No, it would start at 7 o'clock.
Okay,
And it would probably be the only new business on the agenda.
okay. All right. If there isn't anything else, or if there's something I've missed, barring that I've missed anything, can I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
All right, fantastic. So moved. Well, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks. Good night.
Take care, everybody.